Hello everyone, myself Prince from Aussizz Group Brisbane office. Along with me I've got my colleague Fatima.
Hello.
So Fatima and I, we both are migration agents at Brisbane office branch. We are here today to discuss the options available for parents visa. So if you are an Australian citizen or a permanent resident, and if you want to bring your parents from overseas and get settled in Australia, this is the video for you guys. I know there has been a lot of confusion out there that which visa category you or your parents should apply for. Different options available, like some of them have got a hefty amount that you have to pay to the government. Some of them doesn't have any additional amount that you need to pay. So to clear all those doubts and confusion, that's the reason why we're doing this video. So I'll be asking a few questions to Fatima, and Fatima is going to explain about the different visa categories available under parents visa. So let's get started, guys. So Fatima, if you can please start off with parent visa category. As I mentioned, there is contributory and non-contributory. So if you can please share the difference exactly how this contributory parent visa and non-contributory parents visa work, that would be great, please.
Great. So to start off with, contributory or non-contributory parent visas do have some common criteria that needs to be met, with the exception of 870, which is a sponsored parent visa, which we will discuss later on. All the other parent visas have some criteria that needs to be met. The first one that I would like to discuss is the balance of family test, which means that 50% or more of the parents, the applicant's children, have to be Australian citizens, permanent residents, or eligible New Zealand citizens. So that is the number one criteria, and also that is not something that can be waived, and they don't really do that in any circumstance. So now to break it down between contributory and non-contributory, I'll start off with the contributory one. So 143, which is a offshore contributory parent visa. So that one does come with a hefty price tag. Initially you pay the visa application fee. Later on, about 5 years time, because that's the processing time at the moment, 5+ years, you'll be asked to pay the contributory amount, which is around $43,600, so around $44,000 per applicant. So you can include more than one applicant in the visa application. However, each applicant will have to pay that contributory amount. So like I mentioned, processing times for the contributory visa is around 5 to 6 years at the moment, looking at possibly increasing because of how popular this visa is getting. This is an offshore application. There's really not much benefit in applying for it onshore. You can technically, but there's not really much point because you don't get a bridging visa with it. However, there are other parent visas that will give you the bridging visa as well. So the contributory 143 offshore application has a counterpart to it, the 173 temporary application. So similar to the 143, it's just that with this one you get to live here for 2 years, and then you have to apply for the 143. The benefit before that why people chose it was because the 173 had a shorter processing time, which is not the case anymore.
Right,
so
yeah.
Really not much benefit in doing that either, unless of course you have a limit on your savings and you need to go the 173 then the 143 route. Then obviously that's an option for you. Other charges that might come up is something that you have to remember is the assurance of support. Per applicant it is $10,000, and then each other applicant will have to pay as well. And that is usually a bond that you pay to Centrelink, and they hold on to it for a while. So that's the contributory parent one.
Thanks for the information, Fatima. A couple of things I wanted to confirm here. In terms of the secondary installment charges, which you mentioned $43,600, in my understanding, you have to pay that amount at the time of decision, which would be another 5 or 6 years. Would that be right?
Yes, so the department usually lets you know when you need to pay it. It's definitely not when you apply for the visa.
Right, so initially the applicant or the parents have to pay probably about $4,000 or $4,500 per applicant.
Yeah.
But the major amount that needs to be paid to the government would be 5 or 6 years later.
Yes.
Which is kind of a relief, belief, because I may not have that, like if I were to apply for my parents, I may not have that much savings but at least if I apply for the application, it gets in the queue,
Yeah.
which gives me another 4 or 5 years, probably 6 years to
Save up
kind
the
of
money.
save up the
Yeah.
money and apply for the visa like at the time of decision. One of the main thing I would like to consider here, I think to be granted a contributory parent visa or any sort of parent visa, parents needs to clear the medical examination, right? So
Yes.
that is something really important, I believe. So if you're aware of any medical condition for your parents, make sure you before you apply for the visa, make sure they are physically fit and they do not have any medical condition, because if your parents unfortunately do not clear the medical examination, it may result for a negative outcome, which means that all the time period they have waited all the way to until they get the outcome, it's kind of a waste. Basically, if you are not sure, get your private test done before you apply for this visa. It would be definitely helpful. But even if you're aware of some medical condition, do mention that in the application when they go for medical tests. That would be a lot easier for the department to assess the medical examination. So moving on further, Fatima, can we discuss about contributory aged parent visa, please?
Okay, so contributory aged parent visa. So a lot of the criteria is very similar to the one that we discussed before. The big difference is that to be able to apply for the contributory aged parent visa, you have to meet the age criteria. At the moment, the age criteria is 66 years and 6 months. So you have to be over that to be able to apply for the aged parent visa. This is also an onshore visa, which means that while they're in the country, in Australia, they can apply for this visa, given that whatever visa they held before doesn't have the no further stay condition on it. So with this one, the benefit is obviously that you get the BVA, the Bridging Visa A. That means that they can stay in the country until a decision is made on their application. Again, like we discussed before, the balance of family test does apply to this. Again, it comes with that hefty price tag, but broken into 2 parts. So initially you just pay the visa application charge. Later on, closer to visa grant, that's when you'll have to pay that big amount of $43,000+. One more thing is with the aged parent one, again, you can include more than one parent in it. As long as at least one parent, the main applicant, satisfies the age criteria, that is enough to add the other person in as well. So both of them don't need to be over 66 and 6 months. Processing times, again, similar to the one that we discussed before, about 5 to 6 years, and possibly looking at increasing. So this is definitely an onshore visa, and I've just said the benefit of it being an onshore visa as well. So again, the things that we have to look out for is the health examination, character requirements, and the assurance of support again.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Fatima. That was a really good point you mentioned, that not both of your parents have to be over 66 years 6 months. Only one parent meets the criteria of that age limit, still that you can apply for the particular visa. As she mentioned, that the benefit of this visa, they will be granted a Bridging Visa A. Basically, they can stay here until the application gets finalized, so they do not have to leave the country. Now, I would like to mention this particular thing, that's where a lot of people make a mistake, that if your parents are here on a visitor visa, in order for them to apply for this visa onshore, I believe, and I hope you agree with this, if they have a no further stay condition on their visa, they are not eligible to apply for this visa onshore. So you got to make sure that if your parents are here on a visitor visa, and if you want to apply for this visa, make sure they do not have this condition like it's 8503, or it's called no further stay. If you have that condition on your parents' visa, you cannot apply. If you do not, by all means, if they meet all the eligibility criteria, yes, they can apply for this particular visa while they are onshore. I would like to also touch base on balance of family test. She did mention about balance of family test, which is pretty much goes to most of the parent visa categories. I want to give you an example, couple of examples basically for balance of family test. So say if me and my sister, we are 2 siblings, and I want to bring my parents over here. I'm an Australian citizen or a permanent resident living in Australia, but my sister lives overseas. Obviously 50% of the children living in Australia, they meet the balance of family test. So in that case, obviously I can bring my parents in Australia and apply for their contributory or whichever visa I want to apply for. So the whole idea for me to give you an example is how you meet the balance of family test. Now, in the similar scenario, if we are 3 siblings, I'm an Australian resident living in Australia, but I've got a brother and a sister living overseas, do I meet the balance of family test? The answer is no, because obviously being 3 siblings, 50% has to be here, and obviously just only one who's living in Australia, the other 2 overseas, I do not meet the balance of family test. I'm just giving you an overview of balance of family test. There could be a different scenario for different person out there. If you have any particular question regarding whether you meet the balance of family test or not, we are going to cover up as different visa category where you do not have to meet a balance of family test. So there are a lot of applicants out there who wants to bring their parents to Australia, but unfortunately they do not meet the balance of family test. Still, there is an option for you to bring your parents. They can spend a quality time with you, or you can have a really good time with them as well while they're here. But there is a time limit to that. The maximum time period it can go for would be from 5 years to 10 years. But we're going to discuss that in detail. So let's carry on forward. So over to you, Fatima. We have discussed about contributory parent visa and contributory age parent visa. So both these visa categories, the applicant has to contribute $43,600 per applicant.
Yeah.
Now this is obviously an expensive exercise.
Yeah.
So what about those applicants who do not have enough savings to apply for these contributory parent visa, and they want to bring their parents over, they want to spend time with them, they want their parents to be here, regardless they get permanent residency or not. All they want is to bring their parents over here so they are safe here, because during COVID, what has happened all around the globe, I think Australia has done much better. Like, this is one of the safest country in the world, I would say, at this time. And especially with your parents, like while they get older, like being a son or being a children to your parent, you are concerned about your parents. So what are the options for your parents to come over here? So can we discuss about non-contributory options for the parents overseas?
Sure. So for non-contributory offshore visas, we have one option, which is the subclass 103 offshore parent visa. It doesn't come with the hefty price tag, but the downside to it is that it does have a really long processing time.
Right.
And being offshore, obviously, that means you don't get a BBA
right.
with
So
it.
technically, it's just like when you say long processing time, I believe it would be over 10, 15 years, or it's way more than that as well?
It's over 30 years. So
over 30 years. So yeah, technically there's no point of applying for this visa in that case. I don't believe it's of any use to apply this visa, because you're not going to wait for another 30 years for this visa to be granted. So what's the other best option in terms of non-contributory parent visa?
Well, the other non-contributory parent visa is an aged parent non-contributory visa, which is a onshore visa. So let's say your parents are here on a tourist visa and they don't have the 8503 condition, they can apply for the 804 non-contributory age parent visa. So what that means, that they have to be of pension age, so that's 66 years and 6 months or over. And so that's a non-contributory one, which means that you just have to pay the initial visa application charge. There's a second, there is no hefty price tag that comes after a few years, because honestly the processing time again is over 30 years. But what that means is that they can stay in Australia on that bridging visa for however long it takes until a decision is made. The downside to that is that it doesn't come with a Medicare card or Medicare benefit, so that does mean you have to hold private health insurance for that duration. So you'll be spending a lot of money in that sense.
Sure. So like if it's going to be for parents like my mom and dad, if I want to apply for 804 age parent visa, I believe the amount I'll be paying every month to maybe Bupa, Medibank, or any other private health insurance provider would be close to $300 or $350 a month for my mom and dad. If you count that amount of money for over the period of next 30 years, look, it's way much better to go for 143 rather than going for this particular visa. But again, our job is to make sure that we educate and provide you as much as information from our end. There may be few who like 143, which is contributory. There may be few of you who do not want to go for that visa. So like I said, if it was me, I would have preferred to go for 143, but your circumstances may be different. So yeah, consider that option. One of the thing I would like to cover up in age parent visa, you can include your, like say if it's you're applying for your dad, you can include your mom as a secondary applicant in the same application, which we call as a dependent as well. So like for example, for the main applicant, the application fee is about $5,500 roughly. I'm not 100% on that, but it would be around the same fee structure, 5.5 for the main applicant, and for the secondary applicant, it's about pretty much $3,000. So that's the total amount of fee that you have to pay to the government for like your dad and mom. That's pretty much it. On top of that, if you're processing your application through a migration agent, obviously there would be professional charges for that particular visa application, which can vary from somewhere from $3,000 to $5,000 depending which agency you go with. Fatima and I, we based in Brisbane, so feel free to get in touch with us. If you're watching this video from any other city in Australia or around the globe, get in touch with your nearest Aussizz office. We should be able to assist you, or one of our migration agent or team member from our office can certainly guide you for the right visa category you can apply for your parents. So guys, let's move on further. We have discussed pretty much all the options so far. Now we're going to discuss about the topic which does, or not the topic, I would say the visa category which does not require you to meet the balance of family test. Where, for example, if you are 3 brother and sister, only one is here, 2 of them are overseas, you still want to bring your parents over here, yes, it is possible. So Fatima, over to you again. Can you please discuss about sponsored parent temporary visa, please?
Sure. So sponsored parent temporary visa is certainly the only option for some people. It is slightly different in terms of how it is done compared to the other ones. So this one we actually have to apply for a sponsorship first. Sponsorship needs to get approved, and then we apply for the actual visa. Unfortunately, this can't be a combined application. Each parent has to do their own applications, and depending on whether you want to have 3 years or 5 years, the amount you pay differs. So 5,000 plus to 10,000 plus. Depending on which one you want, and like I said, it's separate applications, no combined applications. Sponsors also have some criteria to meet.
Right.
So again, they have to be Australian citizens or Australian permanent residents, and or eligible New Zealand citizens. There is also an income test that they do have to meet with this one.
Okay.
Yeah, so at the moment it is $83,454.80. If you can't meet it on your own, you can show combined income with either a spouse or another child of that prospective applicant, who is also an Australian citizen, permanent resident, or eligible New Zealand citizen. So sponsorship is met, and then you can do the application. But unfortunately with this one, it's not a permanent visa, which means that you do have to leave after the visa, when the visa expires. However, there is a chance to get the visa again, and you can spend a total time of 10 years on this visa in Australia. So if your parents initially came for 5 years, they can apply for this visa again and get another 5 years. So totally they can spend 10 years here.
Right, okay, that's pretty good information, Fatima. Thank you so much for that. A lot of people ask me this question. It's regarding 870 particular visa category. How many times you can apply for this visa, or can you apply, like say if I apply for 870 for my parents, they're here, can I extend this 870 again while my parents are here, or my parents have to leave the country? How does it work?
You have to leave the country.
Right, so it cannot be extended while they are here in Australia?
No, you can't extend it. You can possibly get another different type of visa. Unfortunately, it doesn't lead to any permanent visa. So if while you're on an 870, you can't apply for other permanent visas straight up. You can't do that. But yeah, you will have to go back and then apply for it again.
Right.
It doesn't give you the option to extend it.
Sure. One of the other question I have got, like a lot of applicants or clients who we do consult, they ask me this question, they want to bring their parents as soon as possible here. They do meet the balance of family test. They ask me this question, okay, should we apply for, age parent visa or 143 or 870, what's the right step they have to take? Because we have seen instances where people have been granted 870 visa, which kind of restricts them to apply for any other parent visa category. Is that right? Or
yes, so if you're already on a 870, you can't apply for a parent visa while you're on it or while you've even applied for it. So you've got to wait until that expires before you can apply for any other category of parent visa.
Right, so that's not a smart move if you got your plans to apply for permanent visa for your parents. Make sure you get a right advice or seek a professional advice from your migration agent, or see someone who knows how these visa categories works and what would be the best suitable visa for your parents, because you don't want to be in a situation where you get the 870 visa granted for your parents for 5 years and you are stuck for next 5 years because you wouldn't be able to apply for their permanent visa application for next 5 years. So it's really important. The reason why we have included this question in our video, because we have seen few cases in the past where they were not few of the applicants were not given the right information, and they ended up getting 870 visa for their parents and they got stuck with the situation. So it's really important, guys, to keep in mind that find out your options, the best options available for your parents. So I guess that's pretty much it. This is what we wanted to discuss about about the parents visa. I'll rephrase it again before we close this video off to make sure that you kind of got all the information what we wanted to provide in this video. We have discussed about contributory parent visa, contributory age parent visa, age parent, which is non-contributory age parent visa. Some of the criteria between contributory requires you or your parents to contribute minimum 43,600 per applicant to the government, whereas non-contributory just pay the initial visa application fee to the department. Contributory, the processing time is much quicker. It's about 5 to 6 years, whereas non-contributory takes 30 plus years. Now, with some of the contributory visas, you can lodge those applications while you're onshore. Your parents will be granted bridging visa A. They can stay here until the application gets finalized, which means probably 5 or 6 years they can stay here. Whereas with non-contributory as well, they are visas, you can lodge it onshore. They will be granted bridging visa A, but they have to hold the private health insurance as well. So every visa category, I would say, that has got pros and cons, depending which visa category suits your parents and your requirements. It's your personal call. I cannot comment on that, but you need some clarification, get in touch with Fathima or myself. As I mentioned before in the video, we are based in Brisbane office. We have office in Upper Mount Gravatt and in Gold Coast as well. So feel free to get in touch with us. If you need to know few more details, get in touch with our team. You can call us on 073 2211 981, or you can send us an email at brisbane@aussizzgroup.com. One of our team members will get in touch with you and will be able to assist you. You can book your consultations as well. Yes, so I wish you all the best. I hope you can work something out for your parents, get them over here in this beautiful country. I'm pretty much sure they would be really happy if they're here, and you do not have to worry about their health anymore once they're here. So yeah, thank you so much, Fatima, for your valuable time. I appreciate your time. And if there's anything you would like to mention before we close the video off, so.
Well, thank you for listening, and good luck.
Thanks very much, guys.